it's on.
Okay, I'm just waiting. It's not coming up to publish.
Yeah, it's on. It's on. I think it just went to straight on.
Okay. All right, Rabbi, say good morning. Welcome to another week of Limud HaTorah together. Great suchos to be here with all of you. We're continuing in Mesillas Yesharim. I put out the page. I put out page Reish Lamed on the WhatsApp group, so you should be able, Amir Hashem, to be able to see where we are up to. So we're picking up in the middle of page Reish Lamed. So remember again in Perek Chaf Beis, chapter 22, we are focusing on the midah of Anava, the midah of humility. So if you remember again, we've been speaking about different aspects of humility: cognitive humility, actional humility. So continuing in this topic, the Ramchal writes as follows. It's the middle of the page, right where you see the letter Ches in the margin. He goes on and he explains, Ad kan v'nei dibarnu ad hina me anavas hamachshava nedaber ata me anavas hamaisa. So we'll say up until now, says Ramchal, we've been focusing on actional humility. We've been focusing on cognitive humility. We've been focusing on how to go ahead and think, how to conceptualize the midah of humility. Now we're going to focus a bit more on actional humility. V'nei tischalik la'arba chalakim. The Ramchal says actional humility can be divided up into 4 parts. Number 1, behisnaik atzmo b'shiflos. Number 1, to conduct oneself, just to literally physically conduct one's actions with humility. Bisval ha'albonos, to be able to go ahead and literally take ridicule or take degradation. So we'll see what this means. What this really means on a basic level is that sometimes things happen or things are said to us and we almost have a reflexive reaction to respond. Sometimes what humility demands is that we go ahead and be able to take things, to hear things, to listen to things, and not necessarily to have to react to everything. Visno harabanus uborech min hakavod, to go ahead and literally run away from honor. Run away from honor. To be the kind of people who ultimately, again, not only don't seek honor, but even when it comes to us, we try to run away from it. And bachalok kavod lakol, and the ability to give honor to every single person. So therefore, says Ramchal, these are the 4 aspects of actional anava, actional humility. Number 1, to physically conduct oneself with humility. What that means, Emir Hashem, still remains to be seen. To go ahead and be able to take degradation, even when degraded, to avoid the desire to go ahead and respond, to go ahead and despise kavod, not want honor. And number 4, to be able to give honor to every single person. So Ramchal goes on. Now we're going to go ahead and go through each of these particular items one by one. Ha'echatu. So number 1 was bisnaig b'shiflos. So I'll say number 1 was conduct yourself with humility. V'zeh roi sheyihiyeh b'diburo, b'halichaso, b'shifto, u'b'chol tenuoso. So we'll say, so remember, step number 1 in actional humility is to go ahead and physically conduct one's self with humility. Now says Ramchal, that first part itself has 4 parts. That means that one should be humble in the way one speaks, in the way one walks, in the way one sits, and with all of his actions. B'dibura. So also, what does this mean? To be humble in the way that one speaks. So we'll say, interestingly enough, verbal humility manifests itself in the way I talk with people. That a person should talk nicely, person should talk calmly, person should talk benachos, in a nice way with people. Umikra malihu, divrei chachamim benachos nishmaim. Also, ultimately, as the pasuk in Koheles says, the words of the wise are heard benachos. Now, I will say you could understand that pasuk in a couple of different ways. Divrei chacham benachos nishma means the words of the wise are heard with kindness and a gentleness, because that's how they're said. Or the other way to read it, which seems to be the way that Ramchal is reading it, is Divrei Chachamim benachas nishmaim. Ultimately, again, why are divrei chachamim? How are they listened to? How are they heeded? How are they understood? Only if it's benachas nishmaim. Only if they're said benachas. Only if they're said with kindness. Ultimately, again, are they heard? This incredible yesod, and also we all know this from life. Rarely do people hear or listen or pay heed to the things we yell or to the things we scream, and more often do they go ahead and pay heed and attention to the things that we express with dignity and with honor. When speaking to other people, I must make sure that my words are always words of kavod and not, God forbid, words of degradation. So remember, so just so you keep in mind the construct here, the Ramchal telling us that there are 4 aspects to actional Anava, actional humility. Step number 1 is ultimately, again, conducting oneself with shiflos, physically conducting oneself with a sense of humility. Now what Ramchal is saying is that conducting oneself with humility, that itself has 4 parts. Part 1 of that is dibur, to speak nicely. That's it. Step number 1 in Anava and humility is speak nicely. Talk nicely. When a person conducts himself ultimately, again, speaks to other people with a sense of dignity, a sense of kavod, that ultimately goes ahead and allows his words to be heard. He goes on, he said, well, so you know what, we'll actually have to stop over here. We'll pick up in Meretz Hashem with halichaso, with the way that one walks in Meretz Hashem tomorrow morning. Shkoyach.